Men, here's the reality. The wrong woman can be more destructive than your toughest enemy. She won't attack you head-on. She'll chip away at your confidence, your focus, and your peace until you barely recognize yourself. And the scary part? Most of them look harmless at first. That's why so many strong men end up stuck in weak relationships, constantly drained but afraid to admit the truth. You don't need to wait until you're broken to see it. There are signs, clear, undeniable red flags that reveal exactly who you're dealing with. And if you know them, you'll never waste your energy on the wrong person again. Stay tuned, because I'm about to reveal 6 signs of a low-value woman that every man needs to know. If this already resonates with you, take a second to subscribe and hit that like button. It makes a bigger difference than you realize. And let me ask you something simple. Have you ever felt drained in a relationship? Just type yes or no in the comments. I read them all, and I want to know how many of you have been there. Now stay with me, because what comes next is the very first sign that often turns a relationship from love into survival without you even noticing. Number 1, she thrives on drama and chaos. Some women cannot breathe without tension in the air. If everything feels calm, they will stir up a storm just to feel alive. It doesn't matter if life is smooth, she'll find a way to twist a simple moment into a battlefield. She accuses you of things you never did. She pulls away without explanation just to make you chase, and the worst part, she enjoys watching you scramble for her approval. You'll hear lines like, "I just like a little drama. It keeps things exciting." Or the classic, "Nice guys are too easy." Don't be fooled. That isn't passion. That isn't spark. That's dysfunction, disguised as love. Psychologically, this type of woman equates peace with emptiness. Stillness makes her feel unsafe, so she manufactures chaos to avoid silence. Her nervous system is addicted to adrenaline, and when you're with her, you're forced into her cycle of emotional highs and lows. What does that look like for you? It means living on edge, filtering every word, double-checking every action, terrified that something harmless might trigger her next storm. It feels less like a relationship and more like survival. And slowly, you start to lose yourself. You doubt your judgment, you suppress your needs, and you live in constant anticipation of the next eruption. But here's the truth. Love is not supposed to feel like walking on eggshells. If you're constantly calculating your words just to keep the peace, you're not in love. You're in emotional captivity. Now you may think playing along will eventually calm her down. But the more you feed her drama, the stronger it grows. She doesn't want clarity. She wants confusion. She doesn't want resolution. She wants tension. That's the fuel that keeps her going. The way out is not by winning her game, but by refusing to play it. When you stop entertaining the chaos, you take your power back. She may panic and chase, or she may vanish and blame you. Either way, you win, because you reclaim the peace that should never have been sacrificed in the first place. So, ask yourself this. Have you ever felt like you were stuck in her storm, giving everything just to survive another round of chaos? Number 2, she's addicted to validation. You could give her your love, your loyalty, and your consistency, but it will never be enough. Because what she truly craves isn't intimacy. It's an audience. Her worth is not measured by the man standing in front of her, but by the strangers scrolling through a feed. You'll notice it in her habits. Every photo is staged, every caption designed to spark comments. She says, "It's just a picture, you're overreacting." But in reality, what she's saying is, "I value the attention of faceless strangers more than the respect of the man I'm with." Here's the psychological core. A woman addicted to validation is battling insecurity. She doesn't know how to anchor her identity without applause. The dopamine hit from likes, hearts, and comments becomes her lifeline. And once she's hooked, no single man's devotion can satisfy her. This leaves you in a losing battle. You pour into her, but she keeps reaching outward. You stand solid, but she still seeks approval from everyone else. And slowly, you begin to feel invisible, like your love is a placeholder while she auditions for the world's attention. The danger is subtle but corrosive. If she's constantly scanning the horizon for external validation, she cannot fully value what's real, including you. A relationship cannot thrive when one partner's self-worth depends on strangers. You'll always be competing with her reflection on a screen, and that's a war no man can win. Contrast this with a woman of value. She doesn't need the crowd. She needs the respect of the man she chooses. She doesn't measure her worth in likes or followers. She measures it in character. She doesn't chase the noise of strangers. She builds the quiet strength of intimacy. When you see the pattern of constant performance, posting, posing, fishing for attention, don't ignore it, because it will not fade with more love, more reassurance, or more effort from you. That hunger cannot be fed, and if you try, you'll only exhaust yourself while she keeps chasing the next hit of applause. The real test is simple. Does she show up for you in private the same way she presents herself in public? Or does she save her best energy for the audience while leaving you drained? If you've ever felt like you were dating her and her entire following at the same time, you already know how suffocating it feels. And the longer you stay, the more invisible you'll become. Number 3. She has zero accountability. You'll recognize her by one pattern. Nothing is ever her fault. Every mistake, every failure, every broken promise, she finds someone else to blame. If she cheats, it's because you were distant. If she disrespects you, it's because you made her angry. If she's broke, it's the economy, her ex, her boss, her parents, anyone but her. This cycle is endless. She starts the fire, pours gasoline on it, and then steps back, pointing at the smoke, as if you lit the match. It's a toxic loop of deflection where growth never happens, because reflection never happens. And in that loop, you become her favorite scapegoat. Here's the dangerous psychology behind it. When a person refuses to face the mirror, they never evolve. They stay trapped in the same patterns, recycling the same excuses. And when you're close to someone like that, you absorb their chaos. You start carrying guilt for things you didn't do. At first you fight back, you defend yourself, you try to explain, but slowly you begin to question. Maybe I was distant. Maybe I did overreact. Maybe it really is me. That self-doubt is the poison. It eats away at your confidence until you find yourself apologizing just to stop arguments you never even started. And that's the trap. A man who spends his life apologizing for someone else's behavior eventually forgets his own worth. You're no longer living as yourself. You're living as her shield, her excuse, her emotional punching bag. A woman of value owns her mistakes. She learns, she adjusts, she grows. She doesn't shift blame. She takes responsibility. That's how trust is built and how respect is earned. But when a woman refuses accountability, she builds her entire life on excuses. And if you stay, her story becomes yours. Her failures become your guilt. Her irresponsibility becomes your burden. You cannot heal someone who refuses to admit they are wounded. You cannot grow with someone who believes they're never wrong. And you cannot carry the weight of a relationship when the other person insists it's always your fault. Sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is to stop carrying what isn't his. Walking away from someone who never owns their actions isn't quitting, it's choosing peace over punishment. So, I'll ask you directly, have you ever found yourself apologizing just to keep the peace, even though deep down you knew you weren't the one who broke it in the first place? Number 4. She uses emotional manipulation to control you. Not every form of control comes with yelling or raised voices. Some of the most dangerous manipulation is silent, subtle, and almost invisible. She doesn't need to shout. She plays with your emotions instead of your logic. It starts small. You set a boundary. she goes quiet. You make plans without her, she acts wounded. You ask if she's okay, and she says, "I'm fine." But her body language screams betrayal. Now you're second-guessing yourself. Was I too harsh? Was I selfish? Did I do something wrong? That's the trap. The psychology here is simple. Guilt is one of the most powerful weapons in manipulation. When you feel guilty, you bend. You cancel your plans, you change your behavior, you compromise your values, all to avoid that cold shift in her energy. And every time you give in, you reinforce her control. You teach her that she doesn't need to ask. She just needs to withhold, and you'll fold. Before you realize it, you're walking on emotional eggshells. You sacrifice your own needs just to avoid the silent treatment. You're not being loved, you're being conditioned. And conditioning is how a partner becomes a puppet. Here's the chilling part. It feels like love in the moment, because you think, if I just keep her happy, everything will be okay. But in reality, you're not nurturing love. You're negotiating peace with someone who thrives on keeping you off balance. A woman of value doesn't play these games. If she's hurt, she speaks. If she needs something, she says it. She builds connection through clarity, not confusion. But the manipulator thrives in the fog. Her silence is a weapon. Her sighs are commands. Her sadness is leverage. And if you don't recognize it, you'll spend years mistaking submission for love. The antidote? Call it out calmly. Refuse to play guessing games. A strong man doesn't beg for peace. He creates it by standing firm. If she won't communicate openly, live your life anyway. Your freedom is not negotiable, and your boundaries are not up for silent debate. Ask yourself, how many times have you felt guilty even though your conscience was clean? If the answer is more than once, you're not dealing with love. You're dealing with manipulation, and it won't stop unless you stop it. Number 5. She has no long-term vision. A woman without direction may seem fun at first. She's spontaneous, adventurous, always ready for the next trip, the next party, the next thrill. In the beginning, that energy feels intoxicating. You think you've found someone who can break you out of your routine, someone who makes life exciting. But give it time, and you'll realize excitement without structure quickly becomes chaos. You'll notice it in the little things. She spends without budgeting. She jumps from job to job, always complaining about bosses but never building a career. She says, "I just go with the flow." But the flow always leads nowhere. And when you ask about the future, she either laughs it off or gets defensive because the future isn't a place she plans to visit. Here's the psychology. Avoiding structure often comes from fear of responsibility. Discipline feels like a cage to her, so she chooses impulse instead. But a life built on impulse is unstable. And when you share your life with someone unstable, you don't just carry your own goals, you're forced to carry theirs too. The danger for men is obvious. At first, her spontaneity feels like freedom. But soon, that freedom comes with debt, with missed opportunities, with endless drama about money or direction. You become the safety net, the backup plan, the financial cushion for her recklessness. And instead of building together, you're patching holes she keeps creating. A woman of value thinks in decades. She invests in herself, her growth, her stability. She doesn't run from responsibility. She embraces it because she knows real fulfillment comes from foundation, not just fun. She wants a partner, not a provider who carries her lack of vision. This isn't about demanding perfection. Everyone has seasons of uncertainty. But there's a difference between temporary confusion and permanent avoidance. A woman who refuses to take responsibility for her own future will eventually resist committing to yours. And when life gets hard, as it always does, love without structure collapses. So here's the truth. Living once is exactly why you should live wisely. If she fears commitment in her own life, She won't honor commitment in yours. You can't build a future with someone who laughs at the very idea of building. Ask yourself honestly, have you ever been with someone who avoided responsibility but still expected you to provide stability? If so, you already know how heavy that burden feels. And the longer you carry it, the further you drift from your own vision. Number 6, she competes with masculinity. A healthy relationship is about partnership, two people pulling in the same direction. But some women don't want a partner. They want a rival. Instead of respecting your leadership, they fight it. Instead of valuing your strength, they resent it. Every decision becomes a power struggle. Every boundary turns into an argument. You'll hear it in her words. You say, "I'll take care of it." She snaps back, "I don't need a man to do anything for me." You step up as a leader and she calls you controlling. You set boundaries and suddenly you're labeled toxic. No matter how calmly or respectfully you lead, she pushes back harder. Not because she wants equality, but because she wants dominance. Here's the deeper psychology. Many women who compete with masculinity carry wounds from the past. Maybe they were betrayed. Maybe they grew up around men who abused their role. Maybe they were taught that power can only be taken, never shared. But regardless of the reason, the result is the same. She sees your strength not as protection, but as a threat. And this is where it gets dangerous for men. To avoid constant conflict, you start shrinking. You soften your voice. You doubt your own judgment. You second-guess your instincts. Piece by piece, you trade away your masculinity just to keep her comfortable. And over time, you wake up realizing you no longer recognize yourself. But masculinity is not something to apologize for. True masculinity isn't toxic. It's disciplined, purpose-driven, and protective. It brings structure to chaos, clarity to confusion, and safety to uncertainty. A woman who truly values herself will see that as an asset, not a threat. She'll trust it, support it, and build with it. The harsh truth is this: if your presence feels like a problem instead of a pillar, you're not in a partnership. You're in a silent battle. And no man should have to shrink his nature just to keep a woman's insecurities from flaring up. A woman of value doesn't compete with masculinity. She complements it. She understands that real strength is not about control, but about collaboration. She wants a man to lead, not because she's weak, but because she respects the balance of roles. That's what creates harmony. So take a hard look at your relationship. Are you leading with confidence, or are you constantly pulling back just to avoid another argument? If you've ever had to shrink your masculinity just to keep a woman comfortable, then you already know the cost. It's your identity, your confidence, and your peace. You've now seen the 6 signs that can quietly drain a man's strength, dignity, and peace. Some women thrive on drama. Some are addicted to validation. Others refuse accountability, manipulate emotions, avoid responsibility, or compete with the very masculinity they claim to want. Each one of these patterns alone is damaging, but together they can dismantle a man's confidence from the inside out. Here's what you need to remember. A relationship is supposed to be a place of refuge, not a battlefield. Love should give you strength, not strip it away. Respect should grow with time, not disappear under constant excuses and power struggles. If being with her feels more like surviving than living, then you already know it's not love, it's captivity. And don't lie to yourself thinking you can fix her. You can't heal someone who refuses to take responsibility. You can't build with someone who doesn't even believe in tomorrow. And you can't keep shrinking your masculinity just to fit into a woman's comfort zone. The price is too high. The moment you trade your peace for her chaos, you've already lost. The strongest men are not the ones who endure the most punishment. The strongest men are the ones who choose peace, who refuse to settle, and who protect their energy like their life depends on it. Because it does. Your focus, your confidence, your purpose, your masculinity. That is your power. Guard it. So if you recognize these signs in your life, don't ignore them. Don't wait until you're broken. Protect yourself now. If this message spoke to you, do two things. First, subscribe to this channel so you never miss content that keeps your mind sharp and your spirit strong. Second, share this video with a brother who needs to hear it, because every time you pass this truth forward, another man wakes up. And finally, drop your experience in the comments below. Your story could be the mirror that saves someone else. Stay strong, stay clear, and never, ever settle for less than peace.